I often get asked about making studio-style shots and whether it can be done with much less equipment. The answer is yes. But can you make credible studio-looking images with no studio lighting equipment at all? The answer is still yes, and I'm going to show you. Some years ago, photographers with no brains or severe gear envy accused me of only being able to take credible pictures because of having a large studio and lots of equipment. To prove them wrong, I created a credible wine image using nothing more than 3 IKEA desk lamps and some homemade diffusers. More recently on Carl Taylor Education, I set our members another challenge of working to a brief and creating images based on a very specific brief that I set them. That included exactly the composition, the look and feel of the image, the type of lighting and mood. Our members relished the challenge and came back with some excellent images that perfectly matched the brief. But some of our members came back and said, what if I don't have any studio lighting? After all, the shot I presented them to match, I shot with 3 or 4 studio lights. So I thought, this is interesting. How far can we take our knowledge and understanding of the physics of light and use that to overcome the challenges of not even having any studio lights? So I decided I would try to match the brief myself without any lighting at all other than natural light. Here's the original shot with the studio lighting. And here is the raw file of what I came up with only using natural light. And here's what it looked like with a bit of retouching. Let's see how it was done. Here is our natural light version of this wine bottle shot. Wooden base surface, wine bottle, sat near a window. Now to make this work like that softbox, I've got to diffuse this light. I had a diffuser in front there for my test shot, but I need to diffuse it more because these window frames are showing up a little bit. So I'm going to add another layer of diffusion. So I'm going to add a double diffusion on this. Right, so that should create that, well, it will create that extra diffusion to hide, if you like, the window frame. And that gives me a softbox more in line with the size that I need. So remember, this whole shot is just natural light only, and I need to make it look as much like it was lit with studio lighting softboxes. Right, now we have to turn any other lights off that we've got in the scene because we only want natural light. Checking through camera, looks pretty good. Capture on a 1 second exposure, and there we go. A beautiful diffused light on the bottle and that lovely line of reflection down the right hand side of the bottle, which was created by this single white piece of foam board which was acting as another softbox, but it's basically just a reflector in this case. Now the only things I can fine tune to make this a little bit better is to modify and see if I can improve the light on the background, which I'm going to do next. Right, so it's working with the iPhone torches to create my background glow. We obviously have to hide them behind the bottle, and the light was a little bit too high in the air, so I'm just turning the torches upside down to see if I can get these 2 torch lights from these 2 iPhones. And I'm going to trigger the photo now. I'm just going to quick check that the torches are still hidden behind the bottle. 4 seconds exposure at f22 at the moment. And hopefully, yes, there we go. That's exactly what we wanted. Got a nice little glow behind the bottle, and we've managed to take a studio looking shot with nothing but natural light and a couple of iPhones. So as you can see, when you apply the knowledge of lighting, you can achieve similar results without even using the equipment, because you've taken that important step forward in learning how light works, learning the important properties of hard light, soft light, reflectivity, fall off, inverse square law, refraction, dispersion, color, shadow density, and things like global illumination. You also learn how to see light in a new way that means you can counter any problem with lighting that you encounter. But can you work to a brief? Can you manage a client's expectations, or simply deliver a picture for yourself that matches what was in your mind's eye? This is very important, and one that I now regularly challenge my members with. The reason it's important is because if you work to a brief or your own pre-visualized ideas, it teaches you not to give up, and it teaches you to solve problems that you might otherwise have decided to compromise on. Working in this way teaches you to create better images. Here are some of the examples where people did and didn't match the brief that I set them. On the brief, there was no request for a border whatsoever. Lighting feeling on the label's not too bad, but there does look like some obvious post-production. The bottle doesn't really feel grounded. It's not shot from the right angle. Look where the horizon is. Look at the angle of the bottle. It's not on brief, I'm afraid. What do I say? Comes nowhere near the brief. This stripe of light down the right-hand side is not, again, what was asked for. If you had actually tried to execute the stripe that I had on the right-hand side, you would have forced yourself to solve that problem of making it happen. And in solving that problem of making it happen, you would have learnt something and you would have benefited your own photography. Now, don't get me wrong, some of these are good shots. I'm not saying they're not good photos, but that isn't the point here. Perfectly on brief, with the exception that the bottle to me looked like it's slightly off axis. It just needs to turn a little bit. That shot is bang on with the lighting style, the homogeneous light on the right, the light up the right side neck of the bottle, down the left side of the bottle, the level of diffusion, the exposure level of the label compared to the reflections on the bottle, the exposure on the background, the base surface. If I was the art director, they would have said, good job, Michael, that's exactly on point, including the perspective on the bottle as well. This one is right on point as well. Lighting on the bottle, the reflection levels off the glass, up the neck of the bottle, the label exposure, the background exposure, the base exposure, the believability that it actually looks like a real photo is all there. But the only slight difference I think between that and Michael's shot is look at Michael's shot in terms of watch the difference. This is Saraba and then Michael's. Saraba and Michael's. What you have with Michael's is that slight edge of prestige, just because we are looking up at the bottle just a tiny bit, not so much that it's aloof and snobby, but here we're not looking up at it quite as much. It's a little bit flatter in this shot. But everything else is executed really well in this shot. But in Michael Nadler's shot, it is the closest to being absolutely on brief as required. So you can see how beneficial these exercises are in improving your skills as a photographer. You can also appreciate how really getting to grips with lighting, even if you don't have any, can also make you a much better photographer. If you'd like to acquire these skills and take part in our next photography brief challenge, join me over on karltayloreducation.com. Thanks very much for watching. Get my completely free photography course with no sign-up required. You can also access our free 90-page ebook. Just click the link or go to karltayloreducation.com.